Us right now is Fox News politics editor Chris Stirewalt. Chris, good to see you.
Good morning.
What do you think? You think the president's first foreign policy decision will win over more critics? How significant is this that Lindsey Graham's positive now?
As it turns out, bombing murderous dictators is pretty popular.
Yeah.
And there's polling out that says that Americans are overwhelmingly supportive of the action. And we heard bipartisan support. We heard the quibbles, and you discussed these with General Zinni earlier this hour. What's the plan now, and do you need authorization for next steps? But as far as a proportional response to the chemical attack, to the use of chemical weapons, the attack is being widely lauded. The danger for Trump is next steps divide. This step unites, next steps divide.
Yeah, you wonder, Dagan, if he could actually use this victory and the support that he's getting for the rest of his agenda, to actually use this as something to help him get other agreements on.
It raises the issue, though, about the complexity of everything else that he wants to get done in terms of, you saw what happened with the health care overhaul and the bill that went nowhere coming out of the House, that this is more, this one action, at least initially, in striking Syria after that chemical weapons attack is, this is going to come out the wrong way, but it's pretty straightforward and simple. Putting together, say, a tax reform plan that you can get Democrats on board with, both on corporate and individual tax rates. It's so complicated. And again, the AP is reporting this morning that the Trump administration has gone back to the drawing board in terms of putting together a tax bill, which to me, I find dismaying at this point, and that this should have been priority number one, even before the health care overhaul.
You know, Maria, the other thing is something like bombing a dictator is popular, but as we saw in Iraq, it can get out of control, and it could destroy your popularity if you get too involved in one of these foreign forays and it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
But this is a strike versus going to war. That's altogether different.
That's what I'm saying, is that if you go too far with this, then you could be very unpopular.
I'm just curious, Chris, this is Mike Baker. I'm just curious whether you think, in fact, there will be any sort of bleed over effect of this missile strike into other completely unrelated efforts that the White House is trying to engage in.
Well, we've had a president who's been looking for a win, and he's been frustrated with and sort of torturing the people who work for him who have been unable to deliver those wins. Now we have a team that has delivered a clear victory. It's popular. It was successful. It achieved its goal. So for H.R. McMaster, for James Mattis, for the rest of the national security team, certainly for Nikki Haley, and now we'll see about Rex Tillerson as he goes to confront the Russians. For these folks, the president can say, hey, they won, and I would imagine that, and this is to Brett's point, and I think this is right on the money, the problem for presidents is this stuff's really popular. Bill Clinton found out that launching Tomahawk missiles was super popular, and so he would do that and do that and do that. George Bush, on the other hand, found out that the popularity that he had as he undertook Iraq quickly eroded, and the voters turned on him.
Hey, Chris, what about all this talk about a shakeup in the White House? There were a lot of stories about it. We had a story in the Wall Street Journal about it this weekend. Nothing's happening. Do you think there's going to be this shakeup that everyone was talking about a few days ago?
Well, there are many kinds of medieval torture devices. You have the Iron Maiden, you have the rack, but you also have the strategic leak to the Wall Street Journal so that the people who work for you are sweating blood from their forehead and say, oh my God, this is the worst thing. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? The right amount of anxiety. Scorpions in a bottle is a management technique, but it's not a great one for the West Wing of the White House, because what you need is for people to be loyal to you, and the only way that they'll do that is they feel like if you're loyal to them. Trump can do this for a little while, but at a certain point he's got to pick a team, he's got to empower them, and he's got to move forward.
Right, but I mean that's the question, though, and this is why we're not trying to do gossip here. We're trying to understand. No, really, we're trying to understand. We're trying to understand how the agenda changes if there are different leadership. You know, if there's a different leadership. I mean, if Reince Priebus is too tied to Paul Ryan and he's pushed out, does Gary Cohn get the chief of staff? Does Chris Christie get a job? And how does that dictate the agenda?
Think about it this way. In 1 week, you had Steve Bannon removed from a permanent seat on the National Security Council, and attacks on Syria that were antithetical to the sort of populist, I won't call it isolationist, but step back, America first point of view. Spending $100 million shooting Tomahawk missiles at Bashar al-Assad does not fit in with the worldview and the foreign policy that the president promised and Steve Bannon argued for throughout his public career. So this is a sign that you do have a shift, certainly in that regard, underway. How much of this is the ascendancy of Jared Kushner, Gary Cohn, all of this stuff? This is the Kremlinology, no pun intended, that you have to do with every administration to say, okay, who's up, who's down, what can we tell about the externality from the externalities that tell us about what's really going on inside.
And the interesting thing there is, Chris, is it's not just us. It's not just here in the U.S. that we do this. This is the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, the North Koreans. Everybody's playing the same game in terms of trying to understand where the power base is within the White House.
And I bet they're just as confused as we are because we've never had anything like this. The closest thing that I can equate this to was Bill Clinton in 1993 had a horrible opening act and everybody said it was over. And then he found a new team. He actually went through 2 or 3 leadership teams at the White House before he settled on the winning one that was led by Leon Panetta. So sometimes it takes time.
Chris, can this administration manage unrest, growing unrest overseas? And I'll point to the attacks and the murder of Christians on Palm Sunday in Egypt when less than a week ago the leader of Egypt was here standing next to President Trump saying that we're going to fight this war on terror together, Coptic Christians. Can they manage that and a very complicated domestic agenda at the same time?
We'll add into all of that the fact that Russia is now going to want to make things much more complicated for Donald Trump. They're going to make it much harder on them. The Iranians are going to get wiggy. It's all going to get very complicated, but you have to be a successful president, you have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. If you're Ronald Reagan, you have to be able to bomb the Bekaa Valley of Syria in reprisal for the bombing of the U.S. Marine barracks in Lebanon while you are building a tax reform plan. You have to be able to do both, or you will fail at both.
Chris, are they getting wiggy or are they getting jiggy?
Definitely wiggy,
Okay.
not jiggy.
I wasn't sure.